Hey everybody. So we're coming into the last few weeks of school. If my calculations are correct, we've got technically just under a month left before the school year is officially over. Um, and you should have received this week, or should be receiving shortly if you're on the back end of my list, um, a progress report update from me that gives you an idea of what assignments are late or missing for me. I also gave a little rundown in that message about allowing you guys some grace and turning late work in and still receiving full credit as long as you get assignments in and updated by the end of the semester. But along the lines of work, I wanted to give you guys an update on kind of your last round of assignments, or one big assignment that has three parts to it. So the last thing that we're going to be doing in this class, which is going to encompass the last 4 weeks of class, is going to be doing a creative evidence assignment. And essentially what this is using Adobe Spark to create pieces of evidence that show the learning that you guys have done this year. So you're going to be using Adobe Spark to create those pieces of evidence, and that's going to be in three parts. Okay, there's a assignment document that goes with this, but I'm going to walk through it really quick for you guys. Okay, we're going to have three pieces of evidence, and one of them is going to be a video. So you guys already created one video, and that was just kind of on whatever you wanted. Some of them were kind of informative, some of them were really crazy, some of them were kind of funny. But anyway, you guys definitely understood kind of the spirit of what I was expecting there, and for the most part, you guys met all the requirements for that. And so now we're going to put those newfound abilities and skills to work to showcase some of the stuff that you learned this year. All right. The big piece of this is going to be a video. We have to create at least one video. All right. That video's got to be at least 5 minutes long. It has to cover something that you've learned in class. All right. And now, for my purposes, that could be something you've learned in a class at any point this year. However, there may be assignments for other classes that this can double for, so you can turn it in for credit to me and to that class. Now, if that other class, say it's for chemistry or whatever, right? Let's say Mr. Willis has a different set of requirements, so he has more requirements than I do for a video to count for his class, and you're going to need to not just do my requirements, also do his requirements. If there's some way in which they don't necessarily make total sense together, like he's requiring one thing in order to do it the way I want it done, it needs to be done a little different, just talk to me about it and we can probably make that work. But make sure that you talk to me about it instead of just turning it in and saying, well, Mr. Willis said it had to be done this way. All right. Anyway, a minimum of 5 minutes, has to cover something you learned in class. Again, like the other one, you need to use the voiceover tool. So this is meant to take the place of an in-person presentation about something you've learned. So it's, in a sense, it's kind of a graduated version of what we did with that little video at the beginning of our quarantine life, where you guys just kind of talked to the camera and said, this is a little rundown of what I did for my internship. This one is going to be an actual presentation, right? So you're gonna put your voice over top of slides, music, however it is you decide you want to build it out, and it's going to be more like that. But there's also a lot of leeway with what you do with this. Okay, so while it's meant to take the place of a personal presentation, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same as if you're just standing in front of the class, going through some slides and explaining them, right? Okay. It needs to use visual presentation, voiceover, and it should be approached professionally, but you can have fun with it if you want. Okay. So for example, I gave a few examples in the assignment document. You could do something like, do a biography that's told from kind of in a storybook form of a historical figure, maybe, right? Okay. You could do a video that you record in tidbits, and do voiceover to, or whatever, of a lab experiment, right? Something related to chemistry. Make sure if you do something like that, you're safe about it, right? You could do a play that is, let's say, a short one-act play involving you and your siblings and your dog. I don't know, whoever you have around to be able to do that with, that could showcase something from history. It could be, you guys can do something for my class too if you want. I'm not sure if you want to teach about how to write resumes. If you want to do something along those lines, I'm fine with that. But those are just some quick ideas of what you could do if you want to get away from just doing just like a straight up presentation where you just show slides and talk about it. Okay, that's acceptable, but I'd like to see you guys do something a little bit more creative with this. All right. So number one, that's video. Okay, and again, all of these instructions are in the assignment document. Number two is that you have to do at least one infographic. Now, there's a whole bunch of options for graphics, infographics on Adobe Spark. There are posters, infographics, there are social media post templates, any of those things. You can use any of those things as long as they meet the requirements, all right? Okay? It needs to contain information related, again, to something you learned in class this year, all right? Something curriculum related from a class that you took this year, okay? And I want you guys to consider this in the sense of, from an infographic standpoint, think of it like you are creating the type of teaching aid or learning aid or poster that you might have in a classroom. Maybe it could be a timeline from a history section, a history unit. It could be explaining the different types of fallacies like you learned about in English class. It could be anything along those lines, but it needs to be infographic, all right? Okay, it needs to be multicolored. So this is similar to when we did the creative resume. Remember, it needs to be multicolored. So black and white doesn't count as multicolored for me, okay? It needs to include a written section, so it can't just be pictures. And it needs to include at least 2 pictures or graphics that are relative to the topic, right? It's got to make sense. It's got to be informative. It's got to be displaying information that's relevant to the topic. Think of it as it's a teaching support, right? Somebody could learn something about the subject that it's about from looking at it, reading it, whatever it is that you're displaying. All right. And then the last piece is going to be something of your choosing. I want you to pick an option from Adobe Spark and create something, right? Okay. Again, it needs to showcase something that you learned in class this year, but it really can be as very tiny specific or as broad as you want it to be, right? It could be encompassing, I don't know how you do it, but it could be encompassing everything about chemistry. It could be about one tiny little detail of something you learned in chemistry. I don't really care. And again, you can create a social media post, you can create a meme, you can create a web page, a video, a flyer, a collage. I don't really care. As long as it's using one of those options from Adobe Spark and it is showcasing something, it's showing something that you learned. And that's one thing that I want you guys to be thinking about, that the expectation on this is it's pretty open-ended, but I want you guys to think about this as an opportunity to really showcase what you've learned and be thinking of it as an opportunity to show what you learned by creating something that teaches what you learned, right? There's no better way to show that you've learned something than the ability to effectively teach it. And you can learn through a poster, right? You can put something on a poster that shows information and teaches whoever's looking at it something about that subject. So a few examples, and these are in my the assignment document, but you could do something as simple as a superhero poster for a historical figure. You know, include a list of their superpowers with it, right? And again, remember, it needs to be relevant. It needs to be in some way creatively showing what you've learned, and it could be something that would help teach somebody about that historical figure, right? You could do a video or a poster teaching something about anything from a class, and maybe you do it in a way that it's made specifically more for a young kids classroom. So maybe you're teaching a chemistry concept in a very basic form, in a way that would be able to teach young kids some sort of basic thing about chemistry. That's fine, as long as it's relevant to the curriculum that you learn, okay? Another thing you could do is just create a series of social media posts or memes, right, that are showing examples of different things. We learned about the fallacies in English class. One thing that you could do is just create a series of memes that showcase that. And again, I'll reiterate this. If you can use these to fulfill requirements for other classes, please do so. It will cut the work in half between those 2 assignments, right? If you can turn the same thing in for 2 things. If you have other pieces of work you already did this year that you could put on Adobe Spark, or you could recreate on there, so you don't have to use your creative brain for this, and or your inventive brain to come up with a new idea. You're just using your creativeness to put that into Adobe Spark. I'm totally fine with that. It does not necessarily, it needs to be original to me seeing it, and it needs to meet the requirements. But beyond that, if you have something that you did, if you did a comic book for a class earlier and in the year, and you want to somehow put that on an Adobe Sparks infographic, I'm totally fine with that. All right. Anyway, that's a rundown of what we'll be doing, and I'm going to reiterate one more time. This is what we're doing for the remainder of the semester in my class. This is the only new assignment. Is you have essentially, this is due the 26th, so we have a long weekend at the end of May. We come back, we're off on Monday the 25th, and this is due on the 26th. Okay, all 3 pieces of evidence are due on the 26th, and I'm probably not going to be terribly lenient on allowing these to be turned in late, because that's basically the last week of class, right? But the 26th is when all of these are due. The other thing that you're obviously going to be working on is working on trying to finish Spanish, and then working on finishing work that you haven't completed yet. A lot of you guys have anywhere between 1 to a lot, I'll just put it that way, of the assignments from my class still missing. So I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to make sure that you get your work done, and it's not just for my class, it's also for others. So you have the remainder of the semester, not technically the whole remainder of the semester, you have about 3 weeks to get these 3 assignments done, these 3 pieces of evidence that show what you've learned, done and turned into me. All right, they can be emailed to me, they can be turned in on Google Classroom if you want. It'll probably be easier just to email them to me, and then I can give you guys, I'll just give you your grades on there. But anyway, you need to get it to me. You want to upload it and share it on Drive, you want to share a link for Adobe Spark, whatever it is, just get it to me. All right. And again, if you have questions about how something might be able to be used from a different class that you're creating for that, or vice versa, please ask me first. Communicate with me about if you want to change something about the requirements in order to make it work for both classes. Just have a conversation with me. All right. Again, this is the last assignment for this class. All right. If that changes, I'll let you know, but I'm not planning on doing that. So this is the last assignment for this class. You have the remainder of the semester to get all of your previous work for me done, and to get these 3 pieces of evidence created. All right. So let me know if you have any questions. Please keep submitting work, keep working on it. Please keep checking Google Classroom for feedback on assignments. There's a number of assignments that you guys turned in that you didn't have great grades on, and I would like to give you guys an opportunity to increase those grades. So that's why I'm taking my time to go through them and give you specific feedback on what you can do to improve them. I'm doing that because I want you guys to be able to get good grades on those assignments. So if you turn something in, you got a bad grade, and it's going to hurt your grade and your GPA, you're going to have between now and the end of the semester to get those things updated. All right. But don't dilly-dally too long, because if you don't do anything now and you wait till the last week to try to get things done, you're not going to get it done, and you're not going to get a good grade in the class. All right. So be checking consistently, be checking your emails from me, and get to work on this assignment. All right.